Bam.
Hi, this is John Coulson, and you're watching the Break It Down show.
That's right, man. You're watching the Break It Down show. We do a lot of cool shit around here, and I think you do cool shit. I'm so look. We've known each other for actually, I would see quite a few years now. Now that I mean, over 5 years. It must be about 6 or 7 years that we've known of each other and talked about business and everything. And it's cool to have you on the Break It Down show. You've been on Popping the Bubble in the past, but first time on this show.
Cool. I thought I was going to be on Popping the Bubble, so here we go. I'm
Yeah,
already
well, Popping the Bubble, we killed that off. Well, about 5 years ago. that's how that's how
another
current we are right now.
five
Yeah.
years ago. Wow, I must have just got in on the last end of all of that.
Yeah. Well, we were using it partly as a marketing mechanism to help both of us get gigs, and we were
Mm.
talking to people, but the gigs weren't forthcoming. So it was a lot of work to not be successful at getting business. And so Sandra and I decided to do other things with our time rather than spend time and money trying to do that. It's a great podcast. I mean, we made basically 100 episodes, and
I was honored to be in one of them.
yeah,
Thank you.
and it was fun. We got to explore a lot of things, got me into crypto and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of benefits in that show. But technology moves so fast. This is one of the things I'm interested in what you're thinking about. Right now NFTs are the thing, and I really do think NFTs are a thing rather than some kind of permanent part of our zeitgeist. Maybe there'll always be NFTs and everything, but right now they're just so talked about and so like so and so's got. As soon as everybody has an NFT, people who aren't computer people or technology people, you're like, okay, it's just like remember back in the old 900 number days.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
how was? Oh, here's a good question. How are NFTs any different than a 900 number from the early 90s?
Wow, now you really got me thinking. I want to do a quick plug for NFTs if I can. One of the founders of Stepping Stone, Reginald Grant, is a former NFL player, a dear friend of mine, and he is promoting NFTs by
Okay.
athletes.com.
Yeah.
And so check that out. How are NFTs similar to the 900 numbers?
Or dissimilar, because the
Well,
athletes are in that field too.
a lot of people are jumping into it, obviously.
Yeah.
A lot of quick cash to be made. Will it end up having a life after the bubble, shall we say? 900 numbers have obviously become passe due to technology, but this isn't really technology. It is a new way of presenting artwork through technology. So I think it's going to have some longevity where the
Okay.
900 numbers simply did not.
And the 900 number has progeny that are still around. There's still products where you can, you know,
Certainly.
I mean, you could really say OnlyFans, in its own right is sort of a subsequent model, for access to someone famous.
Cool.
All right, great.
There's so much going on right now. I tell you, I'm almost in my own little bubble. I'm currently writing a patent for fan ad click, which is a new way to revolutionize the advertising industry online and on television. That gives power to the individual user,
Yeah.
and you can be rewarded prizes and stuff. We're working on the stepping stone model as well. And going back to the 900 numbers in the 90s and all of these things, it's been a long learning curve. But with this latest project, Stepping Stone, I really feel that we have rolled all of my, and I don't like to use the word failures, but they are literally stepping stones of knowledge. You get kicked sideways, you get kicked backwards, but you keep
Yeah.
going. And so that's where we've come to today with Stepping Stone.
I've noticed that you focus on the patent aspect of this, and it's one of your tools of choice. What what made that happen, and how difficult is it in this day and age when like technology just rockets forward so fast? How viable are patents?
That is a dual-edged sword. Patents are a necessary evil. I've been following patents since I started designing products. I had 17 inventions developed a prototype at the University of British Columbia between 2005 and 2003, that type of thing. And of course, the idea was to take everything to patent. What happens back in those days is that it only took maybe 2 or 3 years to get a patent. Today, there's a backlog of millions of patent applications, and it takes considerable amount of time, 5 years from the time you file till the time you get a patent. And what do you do in the meantime?
Yeah.
The technology has passed you by, your technology becomes redundant. So really the only good thing a patent is today to me is that it tells your competitors at this moment that we are protected and we'll
Right.
go after you in the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you become a company that is in the litigation business as opposed to the invention business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I've cautioned and advised a lot of young inventors, if you don't have $1 million to litigate, don't waste 25 grand on a patent.
Right.
So what we're
Yeah.
after, well, exactly. And the AIA, America Invents Act of whenever that came out, 2012 or something like that, it literally changed the ball game. I went from a person that had 3 patents with intellectualventures.com that looked like I was ready to retire to somebody that ended up with absolutely nothing. I've lost all of those patents now through nefarious sources, shall we say. I won't
Yeah.
get too litigious on your broadcast. But so during that time, and this is, if I may, I'll explain a little bit of what
Please.
Stepping Stone Edu is. During that time with Intellectual Ventures, I also sidelined as a patent broker for that company. And my job was to go out and search the US Patent Office and the World Intellectual Property Organization patent database and find patents that were initiated by universities in the United States and ones that they were willing to license to Intellectual Ventures.
Right.
What I
That.
found,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I wanted to back up because I
Okay.
want to get into some of the things in the stepping stones and all of that. Like I want to cover that stuff, but I don't know about this act that you're talking about, the AIA from 2012. What was that? And then obviously the result wasn't good for you as somebody who's protected by patents and whatnot.
Well, the result wasn't good for any inventor of my stature. And what I mean my stature is we're just independent, underfunded inventors who are
Right.
literally at the whim and mercy of big corporations. So big corporations at that time, Intellectual Ventures was considered a patent troll. And they owned over 50,000 patents. And they sued people like Motorola and other companies for huge $100 million settlements for
Right.
infringements. Then along came industry, they ganged up on the patent trolls, and Congress changed the Patent Act to America Invents Act. And I think one of the key figures to that act was that it was no longer who invented it, it was who filed first. So if I sat here right now and told you my invention idea, well, first off, on this network, that would be considered public disclosure.
Sure.
And I would no longer, and neither would you, be allowed to patent it. But let's just say in a private conversation, I told you about my patent idea and you ran off to the patent office and filed it as yours. It is yours because you filed it before I did, even though you had nothing to do with the process.
Right. Right.
So that really took the sail or the wind out of the sails of a lot of inventors.
So let me make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. As a underfunded independent inventor, when someone comes across your idea and they have an entire business division to people looking for patents to file, they have the time and the money and the wherewithal to go do that while you're like trying to do all the other things in your business. You don't have someone dedicated to simply just spending money filing patents for $25,000 a pop.
I wish I did. I have a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
It makes it very difficult.
Yeah. No, I know it does. So one of the things that you were working on before was this virtual world and participation, active, actual participation in sporting events or music events, not on the field per se, but during the game live. And I mean, what a fun idea. These ideas, though, is the market ready for them? Does the market like your idea versus the adjacent idea? What happens in these cases when you have this brilliant idea and people want to be on the field, they want to be the next, virtual rock star, whatever it is. And then what you see, and I want to just go on a little longer. And then you see what is available. Like pretty girl sort of playing video games, posting her face, and like doing all this stuff, and you're like, that becomes content as opposed to like actively going out and running around your living room like a madman on the football field.
Well, you're speaking of SciDog, which stands for Social Interaction During Online Gaming. That was one of the patents that I held. We were developing it. We were this close. I don't know how many times I could say that.
Yeah.
And then COVID struck, and my whole foundation disappeared, and everybody scrambled to save their own lives, rightfully so.
Right.
And then I found out, and again, I won't name names, but the company who held the license to my patent turned around and we were trying to make a deal for me to buy it back. And I found out that they had actually stopped paying the patent office a year before.
Oh no.
So, yeah, so we lost the whole patent thing there. So and there's a million reasons why people lose their patents and stuff, and it usually comes down to money and time. The fan ad click patent I'm filing right now, I have 19 more days to get it into the patent office, or I lose the priority date that I set a year ago when I sent in the provisional patent. So, next question.
When you file a patent, you live in Canada. So when you file a patent and you file in Canada, because that's where you're from, do you have to also file a subsequent patent or a trailing patent in the US and all the other places? Or is there international reciprocity with patent filing? How does that work?
Well, that works in the regard that it doesn't matter where you're from. The U.S. is considered the biggest trade market on the planet, so everybody files for a USPTO patent to start with.
Okay.
From there, you have generally what they call a provisional patent application. It gives you 1 year to get all of your ducks in a row and do what I'm doing now, and then file the non-provisional patent application.
Okay.
Once that is accepted, and the date is May 6th, or I lose it, once that is accepted, then I have 1 year from that date to file internationally. And instead of countries, the patent office calls them states. So Canada is a patent state, Korea is a patent state, Japan is a patent state. So after that 1 year grace period, if I do not file in Canada or any other place, I don't have protection and I won't be able to litigate in those countries. But again, it's all kind of loosey-goosey because most of the countries, I think there's 185 or so, that honor the patent treaties,
Okay.
generally no matter wherever they started. But, now with what Russia's done, saying that they won't honor patents, and China never has really honored patents to a degree, it's a loaded land. It's a loaded minefield out there for inventors. It really is.
What's the lesson from that then? I mean, do you just continue to plod on with this? I mean, get back to this whole early question, are patents obsolete as a business model? I mean, are you better off just being a pirate and doing what you want?
Again, if you don't have money to litigate, but generally by filing a patent, what it does is it keeps your competitors at bay while you develop your marketplace. If you sew up your marketplace, then somebody else can come along, but you've already got all the customers. So it makes it difficult to move on that way.
Right.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Okay. So there's still the marketplace really is can you find customers for your brand of fun or whatever it is. The other question I want to ask about, with all of these new ways to do virtual and augmented and all of these things, there's so many business cases here. Let's talk a little bit about Stepping Stone and what that program is trying to create.
Okay, well, Stepping Stone was originally conceived by myself to relieve students and veteran students of massive student loan debt. There's a huge $1.7 trillion outstanding student loan debt in the United States, and the government, for the longest time down there, has been trying to figure out how to relieve students. Their attitude will put it directly back on the taxpayers. So we thought there must be a better way than making the taxpayers foot the bill for all of this.
Right.
what we found, again, going back to intellectual ventures when I was doing brokering for the universities, that only 2% of all patents, approximately, filed by a university in the United States ever make it to market as a commercialized profit-bearing product. So the numbers are staggering in that I've discovered well over 350,000 patents initiated by over 4,000 universities in the United States.
Hmm.
And of that, only 2% get to market. So I'm not really good at math. What's that? 3,500 maybe?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's not much.
1,000 out of 350,000 and more. And there's a big disconnect between the universities and commercialization. They're still stuck in this ancient business model that they want to recruit students and they want research projects for the students to work on, and they don't really care what happens to that research after it's been filed at the patent office.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, students, and many who are veterans, graduate with heavy student loan debt, no chance of a job in their chosen vocation or their chosen field of study, and yet they worked on these patents for 2 or 3 years as part of their projects at school, and the patents go off to die a slow death at the taxpayer's expense at the patent office, and the students go off and end up, a lot of their lives are ruined because of their student loan debt and they can't get a job.
Right.
So in a nutshell, what we feel that uh, one of the biggest things that I keep getting pushback on is people keep telling me or keep saying to me that, well, these intellectual properties must have no value, otherwise they would have been developed. And that it clearly isn't the case. If you go onto my website, I have put 50 of my own intellectual properties, including the now defunct patents, on there for the students to choose from. Many of these are 10 or 15 years old, and they still have great relevance to the market, but I just could never get them commercialized.
Mm-hmm.
What we believe will happen with Stepping Stone is that we'll put together groups of students while they're still studying at school, engineering students, law students, accounting students, other business discipline, management, marketing, that type of students, and form these groups. They will then be given the opportunity to patent data mine or data mine the patent database, find relevant patents, and sometimes, hopefully, patents that they even worked on at school.
Right.
They will bring all of these patents together, maybe 2 or 3, maybe 10 or 20, maybe 100, and they will begin to cherry pick each one of them for their good ideas, bring those together,
Yeah.
and create new patent ideas. Now, here's the kicker. We don't need the university system. We don't need their permission. We want their blessing, and we want to work within the system because it suits the students and them and our needs. But these patents that we're talking about are expired, abandoned, or withdrawn patent applications, which has made them legally free to use as public domain patents. So
Right.
anybody can do this.
So because anybody can do it, but nobody's gathered a marketplace for it, nobody's doing it. Is that the idea?
Nobody's doing this whatsoever. Nobody has seen that we've discovered. Nobody's has seen the value in this. There are over 21 million graduating students in India every year, and we are now signed on with Career Magazine of India. They are our partners over there. They're handling things, and they're running gangbusters. They're getting into and gaining traction with their government and schools who like the prospect of what we're doing.
Hmm.
The reason we want to start at this university level is picture it like this. As an inventor who has an idea and has market potential, I have to rent a facility, I have to hire staff, I have to buy software, I have to get all the technology I need, I have to go into R&D, and to accomplish all of this, I have to beg and borrow from family, friends, and VCs, and all of this. And at the end of the day, I might own 5% of my own company by the time I reach the market.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
consider this project an accelerated accelerator, so to speak, and incubator at the same time. The majority of these schools that we're looking at, from about 3 in the afternoon till about 6 in the morning, they're empty. all their facilities are just sitting there empty.
Hmm.
Students, meanwhile, are working all night and day, or all night at odd jobs just to pay the bills and to keep going to school. So by starting a startup in the university environment, in the campus, we propose that the universities will allow these startups to use these facilities when they're not otherwise booked or occupied. They will have access to all the greatest technology. They will have access to all of the software they need. They will have access to mentors, professors, and their fellow students. This takes an enormous chunk off the top of them having to go out and trying to find all this and put it together in the private sector.
Mm.
So we believe that we can deliver them graduated with a company, with jobs, investor friendly, investment ready, and practically ready to go to market with almost all of their equity intact.
Hmm. Yeah, that's incredible. What's the stumbling block? What's holding you guys back?
Funding, obviously.
Always,
I've just sent
always.
over 300 invitations out to venture capitalists on LinkedIn. I've only had about a 10% response on LinkedIn, and of those, I followed up, and nobody gets back to me.
Right.
There's a huge disconnect between VCs and inventors like myself. They've put themselves behind a wall, and I understand it because they get bombarded by inventors who really, some of them don't have great ideas, and
Right.
they end up wasting their time. So you can't even get the phone numbers on the website for a lot of these venture capital companies. You have to be introduced by somebody. I don't live in Silicon Valley. I don't live in Los Angeles, which I'm hoping to really relocate to
Mhm.
once we get funded. But it's been very difficult trying to find funding. So what we've done is we've done kind of an end run around, and they want to see a lot of traction. So we've done a business plan, we've done financial projections, we've done all of this. And most recently, what we have done is entered negotiations with both Princeton University in New Jersey and Stanford University in the heart of Silicon Valley. In Stanford, Professor David Ash is an old friend of mine. We both worked together, and I submitted several invention ideas to him while he was with a company called Zenova, which was a spinoff of intellectualventures.com.
Okay.
So we have a good history. He trusts me. He really likes this idea, and he himself has lost patents. So there's a bit of an anger factor here for us inventors, and we want to almost radicalize the students to a degree without getting too crazy. But we feel by and large the students have never been told that they have the legal rights to license these patents from the universities,
Right.
and for next to nothing, I might add. Generally, it's because they're already paid for by the taxpayers. A university will give you a license for a patent for literally nothing down, and a minor royalty payment, maybe 2 or 3 to 5%, that doesn't begin until year 7 on
Okay.
average.
Right.
So it's a sweet deal for students and veteran students to get into, but they've never been told, and they graduate again regularly, buried in student loan debt.
Right. Right. There are a lot of universities around the land that have some kind of entrepreneurial track nowadays. Like that's just a thing that is available depending on what school you go to. Obviously, Stanford has that in spades. But even my buddy Robert Vera does this at Northern Arizona University, where they have their own little mini accelerator, and they run around and they work on these incredible ideas. And even if these ideas don't exit, and it's like, hey, yeah, you invented, I don't know, or you built a business around ice cream of some kind or whatever, but it doesn't exit. You've learned the path of like, how do you build this business? And a lot of these businesses do perform well because they've got people like Robert Vera in there advising them and connecting them to people. Is this a thing where is your market scaled by getting more acceptance into programs like Robert's one at Northern Arizona University?
My end goal is to see this as a curriculum choice when you sign up for university. We want to enter Stepping Stone 101 and learn how to build a business, be mentored, taught all of access facilities, that type of stuff, and get to market. We realize there are a lot of universities, and it's only been in the last few years because they've realized that they need alternative revenue sources. So they're doing this slow crawl into the business world. They don't want to be a business, they want to be a learning institution, but they
Right.
realize they have to be both to survive in today's environment. So I would love to speak with your friend about
Oh,
this.
sure. That's easy. Yeah.
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 No, that's great. But the beauty here also, and you're just triggering all of these things, which is great. The beauty here is, again, going back to the startup procedure as an inventor, and I have to buy all these things and rent all these things. I am talking about technologies that have been developed at a university. They're in the can. This is like film sitting in the can, ready to be edited and processed and put out to the world. It saves millions of dollars for some companies in R&D to get going. They are hand delivered documents, everything. And another key here too that I would like to add. I've been in the licensing arena where intellectual ventures, I submitted 49 original ideas to them in about a 2-year period. They chose 3 of them that they patented.
Okay.
One of those they tried to develop themselves, and they never told me about it for 2 or 3 years after, and how abysmal their failure was. And it's always bothered me that with licensing deals, they tend to fail a lot too, and I've seen it with a lot of older inventors that have mentored me.
Right.
And what happens there is that what I am writing down on a piece of paper as a patent to satisfy the needs of the patent office, that doesn't touch what's in my head. When you put me in a lab with the tools and the toys and the development, that's where it mushrooms and grows. So for you to just take my idea, and you not being an engineer or an inventor yourself, but just a licensor, for you to license my idea and try and develop it without me,
Right.
it's a recipe for failure. So what we want to do, because of, again, my name's on 6 patents that are still sitting in the patent office waiting for somebody to recognize them. What we want to do is bring forward all of the inventors who are named in these expired and abandoned patents.
Right.
Hopefully they're still alive. If they're not, we don't need to. We don't need their permission legally, none of that. But we want to bring them in for many factors. One, because it's fair and the right thing to do.
Right.
And 2, we want to tap their knowledge and bring them in on the project and see what else they have to offer. I mean, after all, they created this idea. So we might end up with 10 or 15 inventors and 10 or 15 different expired university patents in one startup. And hopefully they can all, especially with the virtual world, we don't have to all be in one room. We can all work together, and then everybody will share in the proceeds. And I think it creates an atmosphere and an environment for more success.
Well, let me just first off say this to everybody. Hey, you're watching the Break It Down show. If you want to support us, you can always go to breakitdownshow.com. There are 2 different links there that are really great ways to support us. One of them is on our Bonfire store, where you can buy your favorite Break It Down show shirt. I'm wearing one right now. And you can support us that way, and we get a couple bucks from those shirts. The best way to support us is to click on the PayPal link and just invent your own subscription. You want to do $5 a month? Great. You want to do $25 a month? Great. Any of those things is a really, really big help for us here at the Break It Down show to update equipment. I just bought some new headsets the other day. These are the things, marketing. Boy, having money to market things and to get on the road and go grab some of these shows face to face that we like to do. These are the best ways to support the show. I don't need Patreon. I need you and me, and then we'll create them. That's how you can help fund the Break It Down show. Just go to the PayPal link, put a little bit of money in, that comes straight to me, and I invest it all right back into the show. This isn't for me to make money. It's for me to make the show even better still. So that's, let me just say that's a good way to help with us. And since we're talking about investing, let's come back around to John.
Oh, that's great.
When people, I mean, this is a thing, right? Like, we can do this now. We don't need a venture capitalist per se, right? You really can crowdfund things. So if someone does, they're like, hey, you know what? My kid wants to be, I mean, look, it is now a thing that people think about. My kid wants to be an entrepreneur. My kid wants to be, a serial starter of businesses and I want to support them. How do I get involved? How do I support my kid, who's about to be in college, whatever it is? How do I get them access to this?
Well, first, let me add to what you said a moment ago. Fund us, and we'll definitely help fund you. And I don't mean you, but if we get
Yeah.
funding from this show, you can bet that we're going to pump some back into there. How do kids get involved in a startup? It's funny. I've been told by a lot of elders lately who just don't think like young kids do, and I still very much do. And they're too immature, and they won't do this and they won't do that. And I'm like, well, that's because you keep pigeonholing them into avenues that they don't want to go down,
Right.
and they're not happy about getting up in the morning and having to do that task. We believe that if they get involved in this project, it'll be a team project. It'll be based on ideas and stuff of their interest. They'll want to get out of bed in the morning. So I would think one of the first things we could do, we don't need, again, the universities. If students or just anybody wants to do a startup and get involved in our network, they just need to go to patentsfree.com and send me a message and we'll sign you up. We're looking for inventors who want to put their ideas on the website. We're looking for, obviously, students and entrepreneurs. We're looking for mentors. And again, it's a graduating process. We're going up against a behemoth of a Goliath here in the university system. There's going to be a lot of questions to be answered by them, per se, as to where these billions, literally billions of dollars have gone and why they didn't use the money for further development, and things like that. I don't want to get too off track here. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I don't know where the track is. So
Yeah, I'm just kind of following your lead.
well, yeah, again, I still don't know where I'm going. I'm just, this is an interesting thing. So
very
there
dynamic.
Huh?
It's very dynamic. It's not a static process.
Yeah, yeah.
We like to say it, stepping stone, nothing is etched in stone.
Well, this is it's a great way to look at it. And I think part of what you're illustrating is, like we often talk about a Venn diagram, right? Everybody knows Venn diagram, two little circles like that and they overlap and there's some kind of thing. But most situations in life are Euler diagrams, where it's a bunch of shapes, not even all circles. Some of them overlap, some of them don't, some are inside the bigger, some are outside. So you have these things. You have inventors, you have entrepreneurs, you have venture capitalists, you have universities, you have independents, and that's off the top of my head, all those different groups vying in the same Euler diagram. And you're like, hey, and that's a 2D representation of it. Now imagine it in 3 dimensions, 4 dimensions, and you start to get an idea how distant these things can be, even though they're akin. Am I talking crazy? Does that make sense?
No. And the 4th dimension to me is that it all smells bad. It's disconnected for a lot of different reasons. I firmly believe that amongst these 350,000 patents, and there's over 3 million expired, abandoned, or withdrawn patents from back in the time till today that we can access. And I believe that the cures for global warming and for food production and alternative energy and childcare and infrastructure rebuilding, they're all lying in these patents. Not one particular patent holds the answer to anything. But you take a whole bunch of them and think of a patent as a person, as an idea, as the inventor who created it. You put 10 or 20 of these people into a room and say, hey, fix this, then you're probably going to get a good fix. But the disconnect comes from the sharing model. There's too much greed, there's too much bureaucracy, there's too much red tape. So we've kind of bypassed all this with what we're doing. It looks like we have to deal with the patent office. It looks like we have to deal with the universities, but we're actually inviting them to work with us because they set the standard, they set the rules. Public domain is public domain, and that's what these patents are, and anybody can use them. The only thing you can't do is plagiarize the documents per se without the permission of the inventor, because no matter patent or not, the person that authored the document, which is generally the inventor or their patent lawyers, they own copyright law to drawings and things like that. So
Right.
another reason we want to just negotiate. I can't see any inventor with with a long expired patent that never made anything coming into our project and trying to railroad us and hold us out for the largest chunk. I mean, we're offering these people something that no one is ever going to offer them.
I'm going to put a diagram up here. It's an Euler diagram. It's an example of one. Let me take these lower thirds out. So in this diagram, and this is a really simple one, you're just looking at Oceania, right? And so you have these things that overlap, and you notice that Micronesia is only part of Oceania. It doesn't really overlap with Melanesia and Polynesia, right? And so that's a very simple Euler diagram. And when you start to realize where you are in these things, and by the way, these things physically are thousands of miles apart, all of them. So it's an interesting way to represent a complex relationship between a variety of things. And so I just thought to give that illustration. I always talk about those, but I don't often show them on the screen. Okay, so my kid wants to start a business. One of the things I often say is we see a problem, we see a wrong, we try to right it, right? And we'll do a little Robert Kennedy, or maybe that's John. And we'll say, well, I'm going to start a charity for that. You're like, hey, there's probably already a charity, and it's just like your patents. It's probably laying there derelict because someone had the idea. They did the paperwork to get it started. They established a board, and what they really could use is some energy and some money and some time. And you want to go and reinvent the damned wheel, right? So you're saying, hey, in the business sense, don't reinvent the damned wheel. We have wheels. We have a shop full of wheels. What does it cost, man, to get started in something like this? I want to fund my kids' next venture. What is it going to take to get into the store and look at some of your guys' wheels and go, that's something I think we can market or take to market?
Well, for starters, to get into our store, you just have to sign up. We're not charging anybody to get into the store per se. We have formed Stepping Stone Edu Incorporated, which is a nonprofit 501c3 corporation in California. It allows us to work within the university system. Where we get our payback from is that once a startup is established and begins to access our mentor network, then they sign with us, and we take a 5% equity off the top, and that equity pays the for-profit side of the venture, and also supports the nonprofit side of the venture.
Okay.
As far as you as a parent, boy, I wish you were my dad and wanted to fund my project.
I'm not saying I can. I'm just saying, this dad out there who's like, yeah, I've been saving this money for college. Here's John saying, you don't got to go to college. Why don't I invest this $75,000 that I've saved for you?
That'd be a good start.
Blam, right into your education by being a businessman,
We're currently looking for 2 to 5 million based on 2 seed rounds and a possible Series A. So to get started, it really depends on the complexity of what you want to do.
Right.
Are you opening a mom and pop grocery store in the corner, which, you'll still need 50 grand to buy your inventory.
Right.
In this process, if you start with a patent, again, it could take 3 to 5 years from the day you have your idea and file it to the day you're issued a patent. So that's a tough way to go as well. What do you do to keep the store open for 5 years while you wait for a patent? Yeah. So most choose to develop, keep developing, and then it becomes a really double-edged sword. If you haven't sewn up your market by time the patent board makes their decision, that 5-year period might end up in, nope, no patent for you. It's too close to somebody else. So then what do you do? If you haven't sewn up your marketplace, and you could end up being infringing on another patent as well. So this is another reason that we want to go after these expired, abandoned, withdrawn patents. There should be no litigation on them because they were already issued patents.
Right.
And anybody that thinks we're, not we, but our startups would be infringing on them, would have to double look at that strategy. So realistically, 50 grand on the table, US, of course.
Yeah.
It's a little different up here.
Yeah.
Would be a good place to start to get people going.
Yeah.
And again,
But I
they
mean,
can come and work with us for nothing. And we don't take a dime from anybody until they reach revenue. So we're not expecting to see returns on our time and investment
right.
for probably 3 to 4 years after our first startup is launched. But then
And-
it's we have what they call the perpetual exit strategy.
Okay.
We feel that with all of the universities and all of the students getting into this program, that we could easily launch 40, 50, 60 new startups in the next few years, if not a couple hundred. So once the first one reaches revenue, then the next one reaches revenue a few months later, and then on and on. And it starts to catch up to a point where we've projected in year 5, we'll be taking revenue from 20 or 30 different companies every single month perpetually.
That'll be nice if you can get that figured out. That sounds incredible. When people come to your shop of wheels and they they're interested, like, hey, I have saved this money. I heard you on the Break It Down show. I've got that 50K plus a little more because I've been saving all my kids' life to send them to school. They're not into school, but they do want to start a business. Perfect client for you guys. Is there someone like a docent that will walk them around and say, here's this kind of wheel, here's this kind, or are you just like, have at it, and then you talked a little bit about the mentoring part, but what does that mentoring part look like too?
Well, a little bit of both. We would, if somebody just came in off the street and wanted to get in on this, we would run them through the whole process. And by and large, yes, we're more of a consulting group, and they're going to have to follow their own instincts. There's millions of patents out there. People keep asking me for a list of patents. I just say,
Yeah.
well, go to the uspto.gov or wipo.org, and there's your patents. You'll have to develop them there or find
Yeah.
them there. But what was the
Is
second?
there value though in creating a list like these are the top 10 unused patents that damn well should have businesses attached to them?
Um, there probably is. I haven't really looked at it. There's also the what they call in-force patents, and I get a list from Stanford about every few months saying we've just launched this brand new patent and it's up for license.
Yeah.
So students currently working on those projects, we're going to turn that around eventually and say we want you to go to your own patent liaison office and we want you to look through the patents, and especially if you've been working on a special patent, then you can license that.
Right.
Uh, and the second part of your question was about the mentors. What we're trying to form, and again, this is all in development,
Right.
and we would like to lean on even persons like yourself in the future. We want to form a mentor network in the middle surrounded by many startups. And this is another way of keeping the cost down per startup. You don't need a lawyer every day, all day. You don't need an accountant every day,
Right.
all day. You
Right.
don't need marketing people all day, every day. So you can chime into the mentor network and book a session, work out your own deal. A lot of these mentors are retired and wealthy, and they'll offer their time. A lot of these people will also be like the students, where they'll float between startup projects, being as paid as an accountant for this team one day, over here to team B the next day, get paid to do their books, and so on and so forth. This creates job opportunities, as well as what we want to create in our network is we want to create a non-competitive network. There are so many spaces right now, like alternative energy, food production, infrastructure rebuilding, childcare, all of that. There's so many worthy spaces out there. We would
Yeah.
like our student teams to not create competitive companies, but to create complementary companies so that
Right.
they all, no matter what they're working on, they're all working pseudo together through this network to develop this. And keeping the competition down will obviously allow the success rate. They're going to have enough competition outside of our network once they launch with competing companies in their space that we don't want them to have to compete with each other.
What are the hallmarks of an entrepreneur? We have this emerging thought to educate kids younger on how to do that. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, like the standard thing, like I like sports. I want to do something in sports. Let me talk about sports on the radio. Right. That was kind of my path. But
You've got the
even then you
voice.
could have convinced me with something else,
Um, hallmarks. People take this the wrong way, but I've come up with a couple of things. One, I'm just too stupid to quit.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good one.
And another one is you take the word no and turn it around. What does it spell?
On.
Just turn no around and get on it.
Uh-huh.
So I didn't ever expect to become an inventor. I had a criminal injury in 1988, a severe neck injury that took me out of the game. I was a sports jock all the way. I was training to be a ski jumper and everything else. And, I
Yeah.
thought it might be. I was also a bricklayer and a floor layer, but my neck injury, really took me out of the game. And it was kind of like, well, what do you do now? And somehow I happened onto a program at the University of Victoria and the University of British Columbia where they were looking for invention sponsors for their upcoming engineering students. So I submitted, I don't know, 100 and some odd ideas to both these universities over about a 10-year period.
Wow.
But I always thought everybody had all these ideas, so that's the key thing. You have to believe in yourself way earlier than I did. And I just really thought everybody was doing this. And I realized today that this is my special gift. I came up with a new one the other day. I'll throw it out there so somebody can use this free.
All right, here we go. This is not protectable, everybody. Not protectable. Here it comes.
And I haven't seen this out there yet, but, I haven't looked for it either. You know how you have your electric toothbrush?
Yep.
Well, why not just a little holder that you plug any toothbrush into and it vibrates the hell out of it?
I like it.
That's just one little one. Of course,
Right.
Then there's an ad click, which I'm writing a 30-page patent document for, which is slightly more complicated. Here, I'll show you another one here. What do we got? Is it still here? Oh, yes. This is a bottle cap that I invented back in the 90s, and we almost sold it to Coca-Cola. Then one day we got a no thank you letter.
Oh, man.
So here, what this thing is. This is one of your very early 3D prototypes. This prototype here cost me almost $3,500.
Wow.
Excuse me. So I invented.
You built a better bottle cap.
I did. So this is a piece of it. And this is a piece of it. Pretend this is a full bottle.
Okay.
Big pop bottle. And this is the lid on it. All you do, it's the only bottle cap in the world with no internal moving parts that hermetically reseals every time you use it. So, and another thing with older people, it's very difficult to grab that big greasy bottle and that tiny little under pressure cap.
Yeah, yeah.
So with this one, you just give it a twist. It's open. You take a drink, give it a twist, and it hermetically reseals.
Huh.
Nothing else is like that. There's many additions to it. We sent this to Pennzoil, and as a, I don't know how well you can see that.
Yeah,
There is some, maybe it's the lighting here.
Yeah.
Let's change the lighting. We sent this to Pennzoil because we mocked it up to look like their Liberty Bell.
Oh, I got you. Okay. Yeah.
Now on oil containers, because you need a funnel.
Funnel, yeah.
Basically just take this, put it in the hole.
Yeah.
Give the bottle a twist. It's open. The oil pours out.
Brilliant.
Give it a twist and it's closed.
I've used that 1,000 times already.
But Pennzoil, they basically gave us a cease and desist, and we were just making a presentation to them.
Jesus.
So,
yeah.
Well, yeah, they can be nasty out there.
I mean,
so this has been sitting on. This goes to what I was saying. Sorry, this has been sitting on the shelf for 22 years now.
Yeah,
and it's still nothing like it on the market today.
Right. That's crazy.
So these abandoned patents, there's lots of good stuff in them.
My technique is to open it, quickly throw it into the pipe. Sometimes I make it, sometimes I don't. Right. I would be desperate for that thing, and I'm sure I get it. Funnels.com, mad as hell at you. However, they could have bought the patent. Oh, it's so crazy. Is that something that so in theory, someone could walk into your wheel shop and say, hey, I'm going to go to Shark Tank and I'm going to sell these things. and develop a little bit of market up, before you go to Shark Tank, and just say, hey, listen, are you tired of oil spilling all over your engine? Here you go, the instant funnel on any oil bottle or whatever, because they're all got to be all fairly similar. Presto chango, and you build a marketplace, and you go to Shark Tank, and you're off to the races. Is that at all far fetched? And this is just an idea
No,
in your
no,
office.
not at all. Not at all. Problem with the bottle cap per se is that it went through the patent process and it failed because of lack of funding to support the
Right.
application. So it didn't fail because of its novelty or uniqueness. That went through in flying colors, but now it's public domain.
Right.
So it's one of the things I've listed on my website. If an inventor wants to come and make a deal for that, and it'll be a sweet deal, and join our network, then yes, they can take that to Shark Tank or anything else. So that's why we're encouraging a lot of inventors to get involved with us,
Yeah.
who have these technologies sitting around and they've never been able to do anything. One of the biggest problems with the market and the biggest disconnect is that the whole invention game wants me, the inventor, to be the CEO, the accountant,
Right.
the lawyer, and all of that. And again, that's a recipe for failure as far as I'm concerned. It takes a mountain of money and an army of people, a great team, to take an idea from one person's head and actually get onto the marketplace with it. So that's where the disconnect is. Venture capitalists, they want me to be the man to run the whole thing, and then they wonder why it fails. I don't get out of bed in the morning and go, gee, I can't wait to write a business plan.
Yeah, you're an idea guy, right?
Exactly. And I know my place in the chain, but I've been forced to become this one
other
with
thing.
all in my company. I can't wait. I've told VC after VC, I can't wait till you fund me so I can go lock myself in a lab and do what I do best and leave the
Right.
business end to the professionals who know how to do it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they seem to take that as a sign of weakness or something from me, and I don't
Yeah.
understand that.
This is that classic problem. And again, we'll go back to the Euler diagram where you have a back saw and you're great with the back saw. You do all kinds of things you're not supposed to be able to do with it. You break all the rules with it. And those guys all have a power drill. And they don't get that you're like, I don't need a power drill for what I do, and they're like, no, but my tool is the best tool. It's powerful. You're like, yeah, but I don't even drill things. That's not what I do. Like Philo Farnsworth is the classic example of this, or Tesla in his time. These guys, if we would have just left these guys alone and continue to throw money at them, and at the level that they did, not that the Tesla didn't get a lot of money, but they ended up doing so many other things besides piping their brilliance into products that we got distracted by things. And look, we still have TVs and all that stuff, but we wanted Philo making things.
Yep.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm just trying. You said Tesla. I wanted to bring something up.
Okay, yeah. Do your research while you're doing it. I'll fill the time.
Yeah,
It's fine.
no. This is a friend of mine did this, and it's
Whoa, that's
yeah,
loud.
that's brutal, isn't it? You can thank YouTube for that.
Oh, I know. I hate YouTube for that. Yeah.
They're another reason that I invented fan ad click. So where's the chat window? I can put something in comments.
Yeah. You can you go into comments down below and you can just drop a comment in there.
Must have the
And if
window.
not, just throw it in the private chat, and I'll throw it in the window on my side if you don't have access to it. I can't see if you have access.
No, I don't have access to
All right, so throw it in the private chat, then I'll throw it up.
So this is a friend of mine did this, and it's about Nikola Tesla. It's a cartoon, pitches Silicon Valley VCs.
Uh-huh.
And it's everything I'm up against right now. I was recently told there's way too much information on my website, but there's 26 pages of information on my website because 20 different VCs told me they wanted 20 different ways of me presenting 20 different decks.
Right.
And every time you turn around, you're being asked to promote this and present that. And, it finites your pitch down to a one pager. That's another thing I don't understand. A patent document's 37 pages.
Right.
But you're willing to entertain my idea for $5 million if I give you only 140 characters or less.
Yeah, especially if you give me a deck that's based upon the deck that I like to receive. Like you have to fit into my unknown parameters, please. And then you get like, oh, you put too much information on this, like you're gonna spend $5 million. Do I have to? Is there too much information? Come on.
Exactly. And if there is, then hire somebody. If you can give me 5 million, you can hire somebody for 5 grand to go through all my information and cherry pick all the points out that you want to see. So
Yeah.
um,
I hear
yeah,
you.
it is. It's a dynamic, moving target. Venture capital is, and I don't know. It's even hard to get in the door these days. And we just approached Owl Ventures, who raised a $1.2 billion fund for EdTech.
Uh-huh.
And we've approached them repeatedly in the last few weeks, and
Yes.
not a single person has gotten back to us on any level.
I just want to say this out loud to everybody. If you are in the business of doing something like, hey, we want podcasters to bring us great podcasts, you should answer your damn mail. If you want inventors or business people to come and use money from your fund, you should answer your damn mail. If I knock on the door, duk, 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 say fucking hello. What in the hell's going on here?
I've been kicking at the door for so long.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I have no toes left.
I literally have connected the people on LinkedIn who are responsible for getting in touch with people like me. Hey, here I am. Hello. Hello. I see you. I see you in there talking about needing people like me. Here I am. And no, you can't reliably get someone to respond. I'm not saying they're lazy or anything else. Everybody's busy, but it is infuriating.
It is, and it's very frustrating. And I believe if I still had a family, which I think disappeared because of my inventions, but that's another story.
Yeah.
The same problem goes to big companies. With SciDog, we had Instant Idol, which would put you into the live event as it's happening. So you'd be watching a live concert, or even playing along with a music video. You're playing along at home, and it would compare your live playing to the presentation of the event. We looked at Guitar Hero, and it had reached its pinnacle as far as I was concerned, and they were adding a lot of bells and whistles just to try and maintain a market space. And we're kind of like, hey, look at us. We're your next rendition.
Right.
They won't call me back. They won't answer an email. Nothing.
Yeah.
You wonder, is like, does my breath smell? What is the problem here? I've been called a prolific inventor, a serial inventor. I have all these patents and everything. Yet fundamentally, I'm still poor.
Yeah.
And people, I know it's going to happen one day, and we're going to say we knew you when, and it's like, well,
I hear the same thing all the time with the show. The show does really well. It's very well known, except for there are about 7.5 billion people that have never heard of it. And I ask all the time for like, hey, let me do some good quality things for you, or whatever it is. And I'll be damned, it's hard, and these are people that are like, we're desperate to have someone come in here and, help us put these podcasts together. I know as much about the podcast market as anybody, right? I'd be a good person to at least talk to. Maybe I'm not your cup of tea, but you should at least talk to me, right?
That's why you're going to be a mentor in our network for when our startups need podcasting. You're your go-to guy. I haven't forgotten all the things, and you and Sandra. And by the way, I must say it's Sandra Ponce de Leon, the best last name in the business.
Yes.
It just rolls off the tongue. So I miss Sandra. I was kind of hoping she'd be in on this, but hello if you're watching.
Yeah.
And, we made a lot of great connections in Los Angeles. J.R. Horsting, who played Beetlejuice on stage at Universal for 7 years. I spoke with him again last night. We've become very, very close friends. And this is how we're sort of building our mentoring network. So once we get launched, all of us will be in this mentoring thing. And some of it will be paid opportunities from student startups. And some of it will be, philanthropy. And I'd love to help you out on your quest to get going, kind of thing.
Yeah, right. And there's a lot of help, and there's a lot of folks out there interested in helping. If you guys are interested at all in checking out more about what John does, go to patentsfree.com. There's tons of information there. John is completely approachable, so send me an email. I'm glad to link you to John. He's absolutely ready to talk to someone. And literally, like, if you're a parent thinking, Why am I going to pay premium out-of-state dollars to send my kid to a state school in another state? You want to have another option? I mean, you know, here's one right here. Go learn how to sell oil caps and funnels built with funnel built in. And if your kid can do that, well, you don't need a BA to do everything. You don't need a BS to do everything. You just need to learn how to go do things. And not every kid needs to go to damn school for 4 years to learn about whatever, Persian studies or something. Like go learn how to run a business. I bet your kid's more entrepreneurial than you think. All right, that's me talking about that. Anything in closing at all, John?
Yeah, I just wanted to add something really important about our project. I almost forgot till now. You're familiar with hackathon events at the universities?
Sure, yeah.
So big company comes in, Dell, Microsoft, Apple, they sponsor a $20,000 prize. Kids drink beer and eat pizza and crunch code for a whole weekend. One team walks away with a $20,000 prize. Everybody else gets good memories and goes on their way. And Dell and Microsoft end up with $1 billion idea.
Right.
So what we have proposed to, and this is what has attracted Princeton and Stanford, is we want to create a new series that we call Unicornathons. We're looking for unicorns. So we will set up the same type of hackathon event at a university, only ours has a few different twists. The winning teams will come together. They will spend the weekend data mining the patent database, bringing together a bunch of inventions. Whoever creates the newest cool invention out of the weekend, judged by the peers in the judging panel, will win that weekend. Everybody else who entered and also created invention will not go home empty-handed. They will be invited to come within, to join our network and to work within our network to further develop their project. And if they don't want to, what they create that weekend, they walk away with their own intellectual property rights intact. We don't take it. All these other events with Microsoft and stuff, you sign waivers, and no matter what you create, whether you win or not, they own it.
Right.
This does not happen in our process.
Yeah.
Unicornathons.
You work on an idea for pizza and beer, and that's great. But I promise Microsoft could afford a little bit more than that. So
yeah, I think they could.
All right, let me wrap this thing up. Stand by one moment for me, John. Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to, curated by yours